This is Peggy's Place. I'm Peggy Berryhill. This is Wednesday, January 9th. About Annette Wilson and what she's doing, celebrating what she calls your return to the earth, ancestral soul. And Annette is from Point Arena. This is an important subject because it's a subject we don't talk about very often. It's about death and how you handle the death. You might want to handle the death of a loved one. So welcome, Annette.
Thank you.
Okay. Annette, tell us a little bit about your background. I already said you're from Point Arena, but tell us a little bit more.
I was born and raised in Point Arena. I studied piano with Catherine Osborne for many years and moved away in 86, moved back in 97 with my children, and I've been teaching piano for 15 years. Up in Point Arena. I was the preschool director and teacher at Point Arena Little School for 8 years, and I'm also a holistic body worker. And the past couple of years I've been studying death midwifery and home funeral consultation, and it's a subject that's very close to my heart, and so it all goes together, from pregnancy, birth to death midwifery and living holistically throughout your whole life.
You meet a lot of people today who weren't introduced to death or a funeral until they were sometimes in their teens.
Mm.
And
that's if they're lucky.
If they're lucky. And so, I think having, let's talk about, how your research started and what got you interested in this to begin with.
Well, I lost a child 17 years ago, and he was an infant. And at the time, I didn't know my rights. I didn't know that I was a consumer and I had choices and what the laws were. The funeral homes aren't forward with that information because it is a corporate business. So my time with my son was very limited. I got to say goodbye to him when he died in my arms, and then he was taken away.
Was this SIDS?
No, it was not SIDS. He had a heart condition. So he lived 9 days, and we were, and then I got to see him at the funeral for whatever time we had during the ceremony. And it just didn't feel right. I mean, it's never right when a child dies, but it didn't feel right. I didn't have the closure that I needed. And a number of years later, when I had become a holistic body worker and was back in this area, I had the opportunity to work with some friends who the sister had been suffering from cancer for many years and was getting ready to have her final transition. And they had called me in to do some body work with her to kind of help ease her pain and help her. And I was scheduled to come the next day, and I did, and she had passed on a couple hours before. And the family had bathed her and dressed her, and she was in her bed, and her spirit was so full in the air. And so I was able to sit with her and say goodbye, and then do body work with her family. Her husband had had a pretty major surgery about a month before, and she had a daughter who was 8 months pregnant. And there were other family members that, it helped them with their, with their process. It gave them a space where they could be nurtured and safe to laugh and cry and have their physical body just, relax. And that felt so right. They kept her at home for a couple of days. And at the time, we still didn't know that this was legal and this was okay to do. So fast forward, my father is in the final stages of MS, and my mom and I have fought really hard to keep him at home. And he is working with hospice in Ukiah. And 2 years ago, I took my mother and my daughters to Women's Herbal Symposium, which my daughters and I do every year. And it was my mom's first time. And there was a woman doing an intensive about green funerals and home funerals. And so I took that thinking, oh, well, an odd fellow. I work with I'm on the cemetery committee up here. That makes sense. I had no idea what I was stepping into. And I got there and realized, wow, this feels like exactly what I need to be doing. This is what I want for my father. It helped my healing process with my son. And this makes so much sense in our community where many of us give birth at home. We live at peace with the earth. We grow our own food. We barter. We try to eat locally and purchase things locally. Why should we give our loved ones away when we die? Why can't we take back death and care for our loved ones at home and do these things that we used to do up until the Civil War? This is how it used to be. So I studied with this woman who is in Sebastopol and has done over 300 home funerals with families in the past 20 years. And so now I'm bringing it to our community.
Well, you used the term green funeral. Can you explain that?
Well, a green funeral is one that works with the earth. It's not being embalmed, having a casket that's biodegradable, not putting anything else into the earth that is not going to break down along with you. And so that's probably the simplest way to put it. It's not using the concrete vault.
And the hermetically sealed caskets and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Many people, if the cemetery allows it, there are a number of them that allow just shrouding to be buried in. A lot of people use the cremation caskets. Were actually made of a cardboard and decorate them. You can use, there's always the plain pine box. There's many options that are earth-friendly and biodegradable.
I think that is very interesting and good information for people that you don't have to spend $7,000 at a funeral home.
Absolutely not.
For that. I think that speaks a bit to what you're talking about. Instead of being so removed, someone dies, and then you're just hit with all of this stuff.
Definitely. And being able to do a lying in honor and a wake at home allows the family, and that's family by blood or by choice. It's whoever is close to our hearts. It gives them time to accept, to go through the grieving process, to have the memories, and then when they're ready, move on to the next step, which is either burial or cremation. Because in a funeral home, they provide a wonderful service, but you're basically renting time with your loved one. And if you do it at home, like the average time span is about 3 days, and many religions believe it takes 3 days for the spirit to separate from the body completely. You can go spend time with your loved one at 2 a.m. if you want. You can prepare meals with the rest of the family and share stories. You have time to do whatever ceremony makes sense for you. You can write it in any way you want. Death isn't always just sad. There's happy memories. It's sad, it's happy. It's every emotion you can possibly imagine in one little tiny package. And it gives you time to sort through those and come to terms with, okay, this person's body, this suit that they have spent time on this earth with, is no longer encasing their spirit. It's okay to let that part go, and their spirit's going to be with me always. So it's more of a natural process and allows healing.
So you brought along a couple of resources. One, some people might be interested in the book that you...
Right. A really good resource book that describes what a green funeral is and a home funeral, and breaks down the funeral laws for every state in our nation, is called Final Rites, Reclaiming the American Way of Death, and it's by Joshua Slocum and Lisa Carlson, and it's a fabulous book. You can go online and get it. You could probably, I don't know if you can read just sections of it. I'm not sure if they have it at the library, but if you want a quick, easy to read breakdown of the laws, it's a wonderful book. Another thing that I'm talking with people about that is so important is having an advance directive. And that really helps the people that you're leaving behind know how you want to be treated, not just medically, but physically, emotionally, and spiritually in your final days and after your transition. And it's so important because as I think about my own life, who knows where my spare set of keys are, and what my bank account information is, and when my bills are due, and how to find this little thing or whatever. If it's all written down in one place, it's not like you have to pass it on to someone now. You can post a little note on your refrigerator, but it is really important. I hear so many times people say they don't want to be a burden on someone, and this is the best way not to cause more stress, because it's already such an emotionally tender time when your loved one passes. But to also have to dig and search for everything all the paperwork that you need, really can be a challenge. So
yeah, I think that's some of the best advice you could give people. What's the most surprising thing you found from the talks that you've given so far?
Surprising thing.
Are people interested? Are you surprised that so many people are interested?
I'm surprised that people are, not so much that people are interested, but what I've realized is that, for me, this has been a part of my life for so long. And I know how difficult it was for me to sit down and do my own advance directive. But talking about it for people is really uncomfortable. So I've realized I've had to talk about things in a really gentle way. And also, I think having a bit of a sense of humor helps, because it's not all sad. And it's surprising at how little information we have. Most people that have been coming are so surprised that we have these options. It's like, what do you mean we can fill out our own paperwork? How do you do that? And also finding out that cremation is actually not the most environmental friendly way to go, because it takes so much energy to perform that. So,
Annette, we just have a few seconds left. Anything else you want to? Is there a phone number or email address?
Yes, I have both. The phone number is 707-367-0031.
Would you repeat that?
707-367-0031. And my email address is ancestralsoul@gmail.com. And I have a studio up in Point Arena at the old Arena Press Building at 207 Main. And it's by appointment. If you want to come and have a conversation, just give me a call and we can talk.
I think it's very, very good service that you are providing, and I'm glad I found out it just like that, and you're here. Well, thank you so much for being here.